What is the Feast of Tabernacles? This is the question that we seek to answer today as we continue our verse-by-verse study of the book of Leviticus on walking through the Bible.
Of his word, the glory of his cross.
If you have a Bible with you, turn to Leviticus 23. We're going to be reading from verses 33 to 44. If you don't have a Bible, don't worry. Just follow along with us on the screen. The version that we'll be reading from is the New King James Version. So, Leviticus 23, beginning at verse 33. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the children of Israel, saying, The 15th day of this 7th month shall be the Feast of Tabernacles for 7 days to the Lord. On the first day there shall be a holy convocation. You shall do no customary work on it. For 7 days you shall offer an offering made by fire to the Lord. On the 8th day you shall have a holy convocation, and you shall offer an offering made by fire to the Lord. It is a sacred assembly, and you shall do no customary work on it. These are the feasts of the Lord, which you shall proclaim to be holy convocations, to offer an offering made by fire to the Lord, a burnt offering and a grain offering, a sacrifice and drink offerings, everything on its day, besides the Sabbaths of the Lord, besides your gifts, besides all your vows, and besides all your freewill offerings, which you give to the Lord. Also on the 15th day of the 7th month, when you have gathered in the fruit of the land, you shall keep the feast of the Lord for 7 days. On the first day there shall be a Sabbath rest, and on the 8th day a Sabbath rest. And you shall take for yourselves on the first day the fruit of beautiful trees, branches of palm trees, the boughs of leafy trees, and willows of the brook. And you shall rejoice before the Lord your God for 7 days. You shall keep it as a feast to the Lord for 7 days in a year. It shall be a statute forever in your generations. You shall celebrate it in the 7th month. You shall dwell in booths for 7 days. All who are native Israelites shall dwell in booths, that your generations may know that I made the children of Israel dwell in booths when I brought them out of the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God. So Moses declared to the children of Israel the feast of the Lord. This lesson will conclude our look at the feasts of the Lord. They began in the first month of the year with the Feast of Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread, which occurred during the same week. 7 Sabbaths after the Passover, and 1 day later was the Feast of Weeks, which in the New Testament is called the Feast of Pentecost. These were spring feasts. The Israelites would then have the summer to tend their crops and harvest them, and then we come to the fall feast, coinciding with the end of harvest, which would occur in the 7th month, beginning with the Feast of Trumpets on the first day of the 7th month. On the 10th day of the 7th month was the Day of Atonement, the most solemn day of the Hebrew year, a day in which the high priest would enter the most holy place in the tabernacle and offer the sacrifice for the sins of himself, his family, and for the people. It was a day of no work, exactly like the Sabbath day each week. All of this brings us to the final fall feast, the Feast of Tabernacles, sometimes called the Feast of Booths, or as we studied in Exodus, the Feast of Ingathering. This feast was one of those feasts that required all males to appear before the Lord at the tabernacle. The Feast of Tabernacles occurred on the 15th day of the 7th month, and like the Feast of Unleavened Bread, would last 7 days. On the first day there was to be a holy convocation in which no customary work was done. This means that this day would be like a Sabbath, but with the exception that one could prepare their meals on this day. For 7 days during this feast, they were to offer an offering made by fire to the Lord. The sacrifice itself will be specified in Numbers, so we'll leave further comment on it, Lord willing, until then. On the 8th day, they would also have a holy convocation and offer an offering made by fire to the Lord. Like on the first day, it too would have no customary work done on it. Among the other requirements for this feast was that Israelites, once they came in and settled in Canaan, weren't to celebrate this feast living in houses. No, they were on the first day to take fruit of the beautiful trees, branches of palm trees, boughs of leafy trees, and willows of the brook, and rejoice before the Lord by making booths to dwell in for the duration of this feast. These booths would look something like what I have placed on the screen now. Why did God want to make Israel dwell in booths? To remind Israel of the time when Israel did dwell in booths after leaving Egypt. It's only right that God would require Israel to remember that time here, for the feast occurred at the end of the harvest season, when Israel would likely needed to be reminded of the blessings of God. By humbling Israel and causing them to realize that God is the one who blessed them, should have caused them to love and honor God throughout the year. As we know, time and time again, Israel would disobey God, but when righteous judges and kings were raised up, they would observe these feasts. To us, they might seem like an onerous thing God placed upon his people, but they are really not. All of them are designed to show Israel all the things that God had done for them. That's something we need to focus on too, especially during times of trouble. So while we might not observe these feasts today, let's always remember all of what God has blessed us with and thank him for it daily. With that, our time is up for today. The Lord willing, we hope you'll join us for tomorrow's discussion of Leviticus 24, verses 1 to 9, as we continue our walk through the Bible, one verse at a time. Thank you for watching today's episode. We hope that you found it edifying and ask that you not only subscribe to our channel and podcast, but that you like and share this episode among your friends, so that the saving gospel of Jesus Christ can go out to the whole world.